We're back on the road.
Yeah, we're back on the
On the
road.
road again.
Yep.
Speaking of really good songs to travel to, Little Willie Nelson never hurt
Yeah.
anybody. We do.
What
You
would what would you consider your introductory game into modern board gaming?
My introductory board game, the very first game that I remember playing was Manchikoro.
Yeah.
So that was my entryway, and then shortly after that was Carcassonne and Ticket to Ride.
Yeah.
So those would be my gateway games per se,
Yeah.
and we played games like that for a long time. Now, when we got into heavier games, it would be like Scythe.
Yeah.
I think we've played Catan once, so I
Yeah.
can't I
We've only
can't
played
claim that
Catan
one as
once.
like a entryway. I don't know much about Catan, but like Scythe is definitely one that's enjoyable, and it's still, we can go back and play it. But I remember thinking when we first started playing it, man, this is really complicated. And
Yeah.
now I go back and I'm like, oh, this is not complicated at all. But it's because it's like developing a taste for coffee or for fine wine. Your palate changes over time, and when you learn something that's heavier, you go back to something that's more simple.
I personally,
It's a good
yeah.
taste, it's a good memory, but it's not the same.
I'm personally not crazy about Scythe, but it's not because I don't like the game. I mean, I do like the game. The problem is that we have so many games.
Yeah,
So it's usually the games that we do multiple play ofs are the newer games,
yeah,
or what's hot now,
yeah.
because,
Trying to keep up.
we just acquired them and we're trying to keep up. And uh, so Scythe, being such an older game, is one that I feel I have to relearn every time I play it.
Yeah,
And it's kind of intimidating,
yeah,
because the first couple of turns you really don't know what you're doing. You just have to go with what the rule book's kind of guiding you, is to just try to do this or try to do that. And then once the game gets rolling, I feel better about it, but I get real intimidated with it. Now I
yeah.
feel like Expeditions
I was gonna say
is a
that kind
little
of
more
revisited,
it's a little more approachable, I think,
and it
than
has that
Scythe.
feel, but it's not. Yeah, yeah. That was nice, like little revisit to a game that is
Yeah,
nostalgic.
yeah, I
So,
agree.
what would you say was your gateway entry?
It would probably have to be Ticket to Ride. I,
Yeah.
I I'm kind of on the fence, because Ticket to Ride was one of the first board games that I played that I said, oh well, I've got to play a lot more of games like this. And then I picked up Dice Throne. That was a big one.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Um, and also Terraforming Mars was one of those ones.
Oh, yeah, and that's still one of my
But
favorites.
I don't think that we got into either one of those before until after we started playing Ticket to Ride.
So you saw a question this morning on Reddit.
And it was a game. It was the question was, what is a game that you love that you would not recommend to anyone else?
Have you thought about your answer to that? I was able
Oh,
to answer very quickly.
well, the thing about it is it really depends on who's asking me. Like, is it someone who is a gamer? Is it someone who's not a gamer? Is it someone who has played one of these gateway games? But I think I do have an answer.
What would your answer be?
Agricola. And it's because Agricola has so many things that certain people hate about games. So the fun part about Agricola is drafting the cards. And some people hate to draft.
I do not like to draft. I do like Agricola,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I'm not a.
but we don't
But
draft
we don't
cards.
draft. That's house rule.
So that's one thing. The other thing is it's really hard to get resources, and it's really hard to feed your family. And when you get into that whole feeding your family deal, it takes away from your other turns and blocks you from doing other things.
Yes.
And some people just can't grasp, like, and it's over so quickly that by the time you grasp it, the game's over. And the reason that I say that I wouldn't recommend it is because, like, the first few times I played it, I loved it so much I brought it over to a game night at a friend's house, and there were 6 people that wanted to play a game, and it's hard to find. There were no games available for 6 people. I said, "Well, I've got Agricola with the 6-player expansion," and there was a player, and he absolutely hated the game.
So my answer very quickly was Legacies.
That was a very
That
quick
is
answer.
my favorite. I mean, I have favorites based on levels of games, like difficulty levels. And one of the most difficult games that I enjoy is my favorite most difficult game is Legacies. So that one is one that I would not recommend necessarily because it is all about player count. And you can't have a 2 or 3. I mean, you can play it with 3 people. You can play it with 2, and we play it with 2 sometimes with the AI, just because I have that need to play it because I haven't played it in a while. But that game is all about player count, and if you don't have 5 or 6 people, it's just not as fun. So that's not one that you can get a lot of times 5 or 6 people that are willing to play Legacies, a difficult game that is a long game that has a lot of strategy and a lot of different moving parts. That's not just one that you can come out and say, oh, well, you're looking for a game, you should play Legacies. Although I would recommend, I guess that's contradictory, I would recommend that if you are a heavy gamer, you're wanting to get into the hobby, or not get into the hobby, but you've already been in the hobby, wanting to get into heavier games, let me know in the comments and I will play Legacies with you.
Excitingly enough, my question is I like Legacies too.
Yes.
But I want to know is what makes it your favorite game? Like, what things about it make you say, this is my favorite game?
Okay, so there are a lot of different aspects to it. One of the first things is that there are so many different characters that you can play, and you can play overhanded or underhanded. So you can play the game to any sort of strategy. So like you have abilities, each character has these abilities, but you can play nice or you can play dirty. And that just opens up a plethora of options, and especially when you get 5-6 players, every game is going to be different. I mean, the mechanics are the same, but not only do you have the player's personality and their method of playing, but you've got the character that affects that on top of it. And then on top of that, you've got whether they're playing overhanded or underhanded with that character. So it opens up a lot of, it kind of scratches that role play itch too.
Yeah.
Because I tend to get into, well, I'm playing the underworld boss, overhand. Well, I'm not going to be so cutthroat. But if I'm playing underhand, man, that gives me the permission to be a player that I am not normally an aggressive
And I'm going to interrupt
player.
here
Yes.
and say, why would you play the underworld boss any way other than
Well, the ability is really good. The
Yeah.
ability is really good. So and that's part of it, is that choosing, well, am I going to play this with this particular
Yeah.
character trait that's going to give me this ability, or am I going to play, it's not necessarily about what kind of decisions that character would make.
So,
But the socialite is my favorite. That's the one. And I have to preface this with, I never win legacies.
I was about to say that. I was about to
I
say,
never win legacy. I come
you
very close.
during the game, you rule everybody.
Yeah.
And you know your underworld abilities, or your underhand abilities, like remove everybody's, I mean, and I say everybody but not all at the same time, but you manage everything to where you're way ahead. But I was going to tell you that this is one caveat that I think is interesting about that game, and that is at the end of every era. Is it era or generation? So generations, like the one that's got 6, right?
Yes.
Okay, and era's the one. Okay, at the end of every generation, the person with the lowest score gets to pick the in-game scoring tiles. And I think that that's where it happens, is that you never get to pick the in-game scoring tiles because
And
you're
I pay
always
attention
ahead.
to it.
Yeah, but
by that time, I've already surpassed.
Yeah, you've already, you know.
So maybe I shouldn't play so aggressively.
I don't know though. I mean, that's a tough one.
But it also depends on who you play with too, because the people that we play, our legacy group, because like I said, you can't just play that on any occasion. So our legacy group that we get together and play it every few months, really focused on in-game scoring. And sometimes, like, we've talked about this in like the playthroughs that we've done, there's the majority of games that we play, I do not play 3, 4 things ahead, turns ahead. That's why I've never been good at chess, because I cannot see the end game. I mean, there's a couple like Tapestry and Arc Nova, like I can get ahead of it and I can play several turns. Like, oh, okay, well, this is what's going to lead to this, to this, to this. But like Legacies, I'm just playing for the moment. Like I am living in the moment.
It's hard to play a turn ahead when there's 6 players, because things change so much.
That's very true. So our time that was assigned, so we've got our tickets to Gen Con, and we got really lucky with our time last year.
So it opens it's been going on for an hour. That's right, it's Eastern. It's not Central. We've got to do it at 2.
Oh, okay. So thank you for remembering that.
So last year we had 1 Eastern.
Yes. So we got a really good hotel. Like it was within walking distance. So, but this time, our time is
it's 2 hours later.
2 hours later. So we might be staying in Delaware.
Maybe.
We thought 40 minutes, but now it's not. We're going to be on the road.
We're going to be on the road.
We're going to be on the road so we might have to pull over. Oh no, here's a little slowdown too. So but that's bound to happen.
The rush to get home is null and void. You guys were here when we discovered it.
Yeah.
It's Eastern, I'm pretty sure. So we're gonna have to check that.
We're gonna have to check it.
But yeah, I think it's gonna be 2:00 Eastern. So
we'll keep you. We'll let you know, because this won't be posted until afterwards. We'll let you know.
Yeah.
How that shakes out, because hopefully it'll shake out in our favor. You love.
Yeah. You want to stop at Prey 6?
Yeah, let's stop at Prey 6.
Okay.
You can buy boutique shoes, and get your game processed here.
Like not your board game.
Not your board game. your wall game. Yeah. Yay! Yeehaw!